viewers across Australia through TV3 in New Zealand, the BBC in England, in the UK, Screen Sport throughout Europe and Star Television in Hong Kong to Australia's great race, the Tooheys 1000. And as you can see, the weather is starting to close in. There being talk all day, a 30% chance of rain. I think that's blown out in the market. It is certainly looking very much like rain within an hour or so. But we have the competitors forming up. Dickie Johnson and Larry Perkins on the front row of the grid. Larry, of course, the winner of the Sandown 500 recently. Dickie Johnson blitzing them in qualifying yesterday in the Shell Sierra, taking pole position, and right behind the Mark Scaife, the defending champion, along with Jimmy Richards, and the new EB Ford Falcon, the Peter Jackson car, off position number 4. As I mentioned earlier, a tremendous crowd here at Mount Panorama for this fabulous sporting contest. We're not too far away from the start. 16 is, of course, the Holden Racing Team Commodore, Win Percy, Alan Grice. Sharing that car today, Peter Brock, of course, in the Mobile Commodore number 05. We are 10 seconds away from the start of one of the really great sporting spectacles of Australia, the Tooheys 1000. Engines come up to rev, so they get off the line. Seaton makes and muffs the start, and it's Johnson up on the inside of Perkins with Mark Scaife looking for it, but he'll drop back one spot. 05 is stalled on the starting grid, Peter Brock. And Brock sitting there as the rest of the field goes through the first turn and works their way now up Mountain Straight. Dick Johnson away to a brilliant start. And there's the second of the Johnson cars back in car number 18 as Johnson starts to stretch it. Mark Scaife gets up very, very smartly indeed. Follows up. Mark Gibbs also away to a great start. The first of the Commodores, and Seaton now starting to pick it up. That's Thomas Mazier in the 15 car, qualified so strongly as they go over Repco corner and head up the mountain for the first time. Fabulous sight. Only Peter Brock stalling at the starting line.
A magnificent. There is shot of 05, Peter Brock. What a tragedy for the Holden fans. Fortunately, the rest of the field managed to miss him. There's his other car, car 55, Hideki and Troy Dunstan. As this magnificent sight as the field streams across the mountain for the first time. Peter Brock just getting mobile on pit straight as they come across this sweeping, fast left-hander across the top of the mountain. The crowd going mad. A mix of V8s, turbos, and here we are, the turbo war. Dick Johnson leading the pack through, then the Works Nissan, then Gibbs. Then the first of the HRT Commodores, Larry Perkins, and the first of the Moffat cars. A great mix on this first lap around Mount Panorama.
One of the great sights of motorsport anywhere in the world is a full field, fresh off the grid, come pouring down off the top of Mount Panorama, line astern. All cars, maximum weight, top fuel at the present time. Tyres warmed up. Tail shaft problem with Brock's car, 05 apparently. What a tragedy that is for him. I mean, as if this is not a daunting enough task without getting left on the grid.
The exit to Mazda, Forest Elbow. We see the number 15 car go through on its way down the straight. Thomas Mazier at the wheel of that, beneath the GIO bridge. And here's Johnson, right behind him, Scaife. Mark Gibbs is the next in the Nissan. Then a helter-skelter. Larry Perkins, who lost the kick initially and now trying to fight back. And 05 being pushed down pit straight, has not started with that transmission problem. Rotten luck for Peter Brock. And you cannot, of course, cross-enter. So that means that unless they can get the car running, Brock's race is over. He never actually left the starting line.
Nissan race cam hot on the heels here of Dick Johnson as they come down across the start-finish line for the first time. One lap completed, 160 to go.
Just saw the back of 05 there next to the wall. What a tragedy for the Peter Brock fans there. I'll say half the crowd here are wearing the 05 colours today. That really is a drama for Peter Brock, but here we are inside the Nissan, and this is going to be a real battle of tactics here. Johnson, we're sure, is going to go out and set the pace for the race, but Fred Gibson adamant that he's going to run with whatever pace the field wants to run. And just coming up pit lane, we have possibly a pace car, so there may be some movement in pit lane as well, while they get Peter Brock's car out of the way. So we're only into the second lap of the race. Johnson, Scaife, that's on the back of the Works Nissan. Mark Gibbs holding position in third position as they come across the mountain for the second time. This is turbo country. Low ambient temperature. You're only talking about 10 degrees up here, and these things are really percolating.
Well, we'll certainly be able to generate pictures for you today from Dick Johnson's car, courtesy of Dunlop, and certainly the Mark Scaife Jim Richards Nissan. Unfortunately, we can't do that with the Peter Brock car, the 05 car that is out of commission. There's the gap, first to second. Scaife just sitting in behind Dickie Johnson as we take the rear view of our Dunlop race cam. That's the gap first, back to second. And then a similar gap back to Mark Gibbs, doing a great job there in the GIO Nissan GTR. Back behind them, it's helter-skelter. There's about 5 or 6 of them debating fourth place. to the Dipper. DJ, the pride of Queensland. And right behind him, closing for the kill, is Mark Scaife in the early stages of this 2E's 1,000 for 92.
Yeah, they've made a bit of a break now on Mark Gibbs, and Scaife definitely sitting right on the tail of Johnson, looking for a passing manoeuvre here as they line up on Conrod.
Out of Mazda Forest Elbow again, down Subaru straight. There's the gap. Johnson's car running beautifully. Always a strong qualifying car in the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship this year. But the team that put the points together was, of course, the Winfield Team Nissan with Mark Scaife, and he is the national champion, not only in the Tourers, but also Gold Star champion for the open wheeler set.
On outright speed, Dick Johnson's Sierra is the only car that can take the battle up to the Nissans at this stage. This first hour is going to be an absorbing contest. See if Johnson wants to try and break the back. Well, Mark Scaife ducks down the inside, and he will lead the great race as they come across the line for the third time.
So a change in the lead as the Nissan GTR goes through to lead it. Johnson hangs to the outside. He's going to let Mark Scaife set the pace for a while now. The Dunlop race cam shows the gap, first back to second as they work Mountain Straight.
As we've seen all week, straight line speed, there's nothing in this with these cars, and Dick's got the advantage of the toe. Pulls out of the draft, and this is just sheer horsepower. Aerodynamics working on these cars, 280 kilometres an hour as they head up Mountain Straight.
Dick's trying to blow him off before they get to the right-hander, but I don't think he'll make it there.
Scaife goes deeper under brakes. These guys will be mindful these cars are running on full tanks of fuel, new tyres, and they've got 6.5 hours of racing to go. And car 9, the O'Brien Brabham car, into the pits early, front wheels coming off. Looks like new tyres, nothing happening with the brakes. I wonder what's going on out there this early in the race.
John Brady?
Yes, Mike, it looks like it's tyres, and that's all. Rudy Eggenberger hopped in to try and have a quick look at the telemetry, but pulled out of it very quickly. And the car back in action, so something awfully unplanned there. So what's happened with the tyres is hard to pull. It wasn't a blown wheel, but it's certainly something Alan Moffat's second car can't afford.
So it wasn't a puncher or anything like that, John?
Doesn't appear to have been.
OK, maybe Alan can update us on that as we pick up Mark Scaife. Number 9, rejoining the race. You saw the quick pit stop. It rejoins in 37th place. Scaife, the young gun, leads them down to Mazda Forest Elbow. Right behind him, Dickie Johnson, 17, the Shell Sierra, and Mark Gibbs in the Nissan GTR for GIO runs in third.
Well, Freddie Gibson said he'd have a look at the pace of the field in these opening laps and make sure the Nissan was running comfortably to its own race plan in the first hour. Well, this is a comfortable race plan. It's pretty ominous for the rest of them. Doing it very comfortably here in first position, opening a little gap on Johnson, and we're not even into the first 5 laps. Hard under brakes, down to Caltic's chase. Johnson still hanging in second. Good position for Mark Gibbs, Rowan Onslow and Bob Forbes GIO GTR. A watching brief, sitting back in third place.
I notice another one going into the pits very quickly, the Kevin Waldock Ampol Playscape Sierra for an unscheduled stop, and they're also about ready to change tyres. By the look of it, they've got the hood up.
John Hewson there working on the front right wheel, but there's something a little bit more important. I believe there's clutch problems with that car. Bonnet's up, and that's a drama for Kevin Waldock. This car normally bulletproof, certainly has been at Bathurst over the last 2 or 3 years, but having problems very early as we go back to the GIO GTR. Mark Gibbs at the wheel.
I believe the Synovus Vitamins car that came in, that Charlie O'Brien, the problem was that they'd flat spotted the tyres.
Worth keeping an eye out for his teammate, though, Klaus Needsvits in the other car. Needsvits now up to 4th place, having started from 10th on the grid.
Yes, Alan Moffat's come here with the Eggenberger Army once again. One of the most specialised engine tuners and car preparers in the world. Rudy Eggenberger's back for another attack at the mountain. Had cruelly robbed from him in 87, 88 once again. He's come very close in 89, so Rudy hasn't quite cracked the big one yet. He's come back here with an army of personnel, a whole lot of engines, engine telemetry, all the high-tech gear. And these Moffat Sierras for one last crack at the mountain before the turbo cars are banned forever.
I noticed the oil flag out on Mountain Straight. Keep an eye on that. Number 1, Winfield Nissan GTR, Mark Scaife, your race leader. Beautifully turned out car, very professional team. Everything falling into their hands early in the race.
Well, this was the last hurrah for the turbos. The weather has cooperated, hasn't it? Couldn't be better for these cars.
Little rain will also help too with the 4-wheel drive. But there's the gap. Great shot there from our chopper cam. That's first back to second. Mark Scaife disappearing down Subaru straight. Dick Johnson in pursuit behind him. Mark Gibbs still running in the third spot. And a gap opening out over those three cars as Dick hauls it down here into the left-hander at Caltex Chase.
I noticed another early casualty in the pits, car 31, the New Zealand tic-tac entry. Robbie Kerr got a problem as well, out of the action for the moment.
And there is car 10, Klaus Niedzwitz. Man who's been quite impressive. Hasn't done a lot of racing this year, but dialed himself into this car quite quickly during the week.
Well, Klaus has come up to fourth. That would put Larry Perkins back to fifth. And he was very disappointed yesterday in the Tui's top 10 shootout. Foot, as I understand, slipped off the pedals on 2 occasions.
Yes, there was a bit of a mechanical hitch there. Greg Hansford and Klaus obviously have different sized feet. So what they tried to do in the middle of one of the sessions is move the throttle pedal over to suit Greg, and unfortunately Klaus wasn't used to the setup, and his foot slipped off the throttle pedal twice. He was very disappointed when he came back to the pits. What they've done as a solution is to stick some abrasive paper to the pedal to stop his foot sliding off. So Klaus has lost out in the qualifying war, but Alan Moffat very confident last night. This car is going to run all day.
I was talking to Klaus last night, and he was saying that he believes that 1 or 2 people ran special qualifying engines in the top 10. Klaus said, we'll be racing with our qualifying engine. They had the race engine all the way through.
Yeah. Well, of course, Dick Johnson, I don't think there's much doubt there. Dick had everything turned up yesterday. Did a tremendous job. The Peter Brock car still stalled out there on the pits. With an update on that, it's Johnny Brady.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mike. What they're trying to do at the moment, it's quite a scene here. They've sent the entire Brock crew up to get the car and try and push it onto the off-ramp up there near Hell Corner, and then try and duck it down to the lane behind the garages, which means they're going to have to negotiate some fairly quick-moving traffic when they do that. But they're determined to try and get it back. It was the tail shaft. They've got a spare one lined up in the garage. It's just a case of trying to get the car back there to do it. Of course, the race, unfortunately, is already shot for them.
It certainly is. Thanks, John, for that. Mazda Forest Elbow.
Klaus Niedzwitz spent a lot of time in these Sierras. He painted them in 1987. He's run them for about 6 years on and off. And he knows these cars intimately. Warm-up procedures, getting the cars right for qualifying. He spent a lot of time in these turbo Fords, and he'd love to go out a winner here today.
Well, the break, actually, between Mark Scaife and Dickie Johnson, about the same. It's out to a few car lengths. Then you can see further up Conrod Straight. But here's our race leader as we check them out for you on the Caltex race score. Jimmy Richards and Mark Scaife on lap 3 lead over Dickie Johnson, John Bowe and the Shell Sierra. Third is Gibbs and Rowan Onslow in the Geo Nissan GTR. Then Niedzwitz and Hansford in the Synovus Vitamin Sierra running in 4th. Perkins and Harrington in the T-Mart Commodore run in 5th place. 6th is Thomas Mazier and Bradley Jones, followed by Glenn Seaton and Alan Jones in car number 30. In 8th spot, 35, it of course is Wayne Park, David Parsons and the Peter Jackson Sierra. 9th, Win Percy and Alan Grice in the HRT Commodore, and rounding out the top 10, number 8, Colin Bond, and of course Johnny Smith in the Caltex Sierra. And we'll be back at Mount Panorama Bathurst in just a moment. Panorama Bathurst, the Tui's 1000 continues. Mark Scaife, your race leader over Dick Johnson. Mark Gibbs is the next one, followed by Klaus Niedzwitz, Larry Perkins.
That's the top 5.
And look behind Larry Perkins. You've got Perkins, who started on the outside of the front row, and Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Falcon V8 has moved up right behind Perkins. Then you have the 2 Holden Racing Team Commodores, Thomas Maziera, then of course the 16 car. Fabulous battle here on Conrod Straight. Look for the power. And it looks like Percy.
Win Percy was slated to start on the car.
Well, there are only 4 of the...